it will open up a space for considering the full humanity of LGBT. In addition, we are engaging in several social interventions. We believe in a principle: eradicate hate, educate. So our focus, I was a lecturer at University of Technology, Jamaica. Our focus is sharing our stories, sharing our narratives, having Jamaicans realize that we are their brothers and sisters and doctors and nurses and pastors and etc. We've done, online social media campaigns. So while we're doing all of that, we're also going after the law. So it's not, in our view, one or the other. It's actually both.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Stephen, you are working for a group that has managed to secure pro bono representation for many Jamaicans, LGBT and HIV positive, that are seeking asylum in this country. Now, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that your clients face as they are embarking on this long and tortuous process of asylum, and whether, from your experience, the immigration system here in this country might be becoming a little bit more sensitive to their claims?
Sure. So it's really great to be here, by the way. I see two major challenges to providing a good pathway for LGBT and HIV positive Jamaicans to get asylum in the United States. First, you actually need to get out, right? You need to get out of Jamaica. That is massively challenging. Most of the Jamaicans that we see who actually make it to the United States and can access the systems by which they can apply for asylum, they come here on, work and travel visas or on tourist visas, but those visas aren't available to the most vulnerable Jamaicans who are living in very, very poor neighborhoods, and so those people are trapped. They're basically trapped, and unless they can get help from someone, or maybe come in through Mexico, which doesn't happen too often with Jamaicans, those people are cut off. There's another type of isolation, which is certainly cultural isolation. If you grow up thinking that by being out you will suffer from terrible consequences, if you grow up in fear, if you grow up with people saying terrible things to you and hurting you, then you may be reluctant to come out and try and approach an authority or try and approach a body that's willing to help you. It might take you time to integrate into a loving LGBT community in the United States. As soon as you step your foot onto American soil, the clock is ticking for you to apply for asylum. You're supposed to do it within a year of coming here. And if in that first year of being here, you don't have the fortune to find someone to help you apply for asylum, then you might be shit out of luck. So there are massive barriers in place to LGBT people finding those services. Service providers try to make partnerships with local community members. What we try to do is, every year we make sure that there are articles in major newspapers about asylum. We have had gay Jamaicans, gay Russians, go on the record talking about their experiences finding assistance, and we really hope that those voices and those stories get back to communities in other countries where people start to have this seed planted in their mind where, if somehow I can just get out of Jamaica, out of Russia, out of any country where it's dangerous to be LGBT or HIV positive, then I can come forth out of the shadows and I can get the help that I need and just be safe and live my life.
Okay, thank you. We'll open now the floor to discussion. I have one request, please. Ask questions, don't make statements. Okay. You can make statements to the speakers when we have the reception afterwards. So, and brief questions so that we can get the opportunity to as many people as possible to ask questions. And please, when you take your microphone, also identify yourself. We are recording the event, and we want to have to identify all the people that participate in this discussion. Yes. So, who would like to go first? Did you have your hand? Anybody? Oh, silence, maybe. Good. Oh, okay, yes.
Well, the only thing I'll say, you asked for...
Please identify yourself first.
My name is Hossein Richards, and I'm a native son of Jamaica. I would like to say that I'm very, very disappointed in the presentation that I see here tonight, because as I've said in the documentary, and most of what I've said was edited, this is another propaganda piece of work. And I admire how the homosexual community, both national and international, have got together and they're able to get their agenda out in first base. Mm-hmm. When you, as a group of people, you can have the President of the United States coming out and accepting this kind of lifestyle. When you have people like Reverend Sharpton and many other black ministers coming out and accepting this kind of behavior. And when I go around in my community, I've heard more talk about 2 men and 2 women getting married than I've heard about the conventional family gathering. Nobody talks about us as a family anymore, coming together and having a family. And I believe that this kind of power of the homosexual community is very unfair. You're saying that you want to have a dialogue, but it's not a dialogue. From what I've seen and the experience I've had, this is something where the homosexual community wants to ram something down the throats of the rest of us. And I think if you really want to have a dialogue, you make it fair, because this documentary, the deck is stacked, the panel have their stacked, and if you want it to be fair, you'd have had other folks on the panel that have a different opinion. And so this is my problem with the homosexual community. If you want to really have a dialogue, you come to the folks who can present a balance. But this is very unfair. So I will not broach any question to you, because I don't feel that this is fair. And this is a bashment of my country. My country don't deserve this. I don't deserve this coming from a native of my country. It is highly unfair. There are other countries in the world that will take the heads of homosexuals off. And you don't have the guts, you don't have the cojones to go and do documentaries on these countries. No. Okay? You don't have the cojones to go to these countries and do the kind of documentary. But a little country such as Jamaica, who does not have the resources to do the things that you want them to do? How many people are murdered in Jamaica every year and they're not homosexual? The social condition of our country, what the IMF is putting our country under, the austerity measures, these are things that need to be discussed. Homosexuality is a behavior. It's a behavior that it is something that is at a priority in our country. We have more pressing issues that should be dealt with, and I think this is highly unfair.
Okay. Before I give the floor to somebody in the panel that would like to respond, the only thing I will say is that what you call as All Hills Collective as the homosexual community, at least I hope you will have the courtesy to admit that you have allowed your freedom of expression and the opportunity to walk out of this room alive after you gave us your tirade. While homosexual people in your country, if they were to open their mouth in 3 minutes, will be dead or beaten up. So give us this, allow us this courtesy, please. Maurice, would you like to say something?
Jose, thank you very much for your intervention, Jose. Is this on? No. Yes, thank you very much for your intervention, Jose.
It's a propaganda machine, y'all.
Okay. Okay. You've spoken now. Give the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Jose. And the young lady behind, thank you very much for your concern.
I'm from Kingston in Jamaica, and I went back to Jamaica in 2011. And there was a gay guy walking around and nobody did anything to him. And I'm from the ghetto.
All right. And thank you for your intervention. No, I want to just. I want to.
You can ask your question, but can Maurice respond
I'll just make an intervention there.
please.
I remember once I had a training session with some members of the government, and one of them said, "Why do you make such a big deal about LGBT rights? We kill straight people too." So the feeling is that there are other priorities, and of course you have a financial crisis, etc., etc. Yes, there are pressing issues, but it's a false choice. I put it to you, Jose. It's a false choice to say that you can have one and not the other, or you can't have both at the same time.
That was not what I suggested.
But
that's not what I said.
I'm saying to you, I think we can, as Jamaicans, accept that respecting the rights of all Jamaicans is not going to detract from the other issues that are pressing. If we just adopt a principle of, as it's found in our motto, our national motto says, out of many, one people.
That's a joke.
And that's, well, it's an aspiration.
It's a joke.
And that's what we're aspiring to. So I know you're upset. I know you feel that your country is being revealed.
Being raped.
But the reality is, these are not artificial scenarios. If you want me to discuss more with you, during the break, I certainly can. The reason I got, and I'm going to end with this, the reason I got involved with LGBT activism, I cannot ended up in it accidentally. I am a corporate lawyer. And I was asked by J-Flag to basically do their books. And they could not find a human rights lawyer to help them to document abuses. Nobody wanted to touch the issue because it was professional suicide. I therefore did some basic reading and just basic human rights training for their constituents. And once I started documenting the abuses, I had to, just like Selena, I had to abandon my career as a corporate lawyer and commit my entire life now to activism, because you don't know the half of what's going on. The fact that one young man is able to walk around in Waltham Park or in Kingston is not beginning to scratch the surface of the abuses that Jamaican LGBT experience on a daily basis. I receive death threats. And I'm not speaking, in abstract. I received death threats simply because I reported on a raid of a bar by police. Simple report. I received such violent death threats. When I went to the police and reported it, you know what the police officer said to me, who's supposed to be reporting the death threat? He hates gays and they make him sick. When I reported that police officer to his boss, the response I got from his boss was, "Oh, that's too bad. The situation won't change until the law changes." There are rapes, there are murders, there's abuse. It might seem unpleasant to hear, but it's the reality. And the only way we can deal with the situation is to face it instead of trying to bury our head in the sand.
Does anybody else from the panel wants to say anything on this exchange? Okay, next question, please. Yes.
Is it on? Hi, thank you so much for this discussion of human rights. I don't think Jamaica as an extraordinary country and extraordinary people is being called into question, but violent bigotries within that extraordinary country and extraordinary people is being called into question.
Don't go there.
The question I have is somewhat of an academic one. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Lizzie Eakins. I'm a professor in the English department. I'm interested, and pardon my ignorance, what are the grounds for your domestic legal cases? What is it in the Jamaican Constitution or governing legal documents that allow an argument against the buggery law, etc.? So just a little bit of a legal context would be really
very well. I won't make this very legal. We have 3 sections in the law called the Offense Against the Persons Act, which criminalize same-gender intimacy between men. Lesbian intimacy is not illegal in Jamaica. Only lesbian marriages or other forms of cohabitation. Those are prohibited by our constitution. The grounds we are pursuing involve looking at the constitutional prohibition against challenging the law. There is a savings law clause which in our constitution prevents us challenging the law domestically. However, we think we have found a way to challenge the law, to say that it is violative of privacy rights and equality rights. A young man was evicted from his home by his landlord simply because she said she found out he was gay and she suspected, had no proof, she suspected that he would be engaging in illegal activities on the premises. So without finding him in a compromising position or anything, she decided to evict him. So we have brought a case to say that the existence of this law is the reason for this human right violation, right to privacy and right to equality. So that's basically the case in sum.
Okay, yes.
Hello, I'm Tony Melendez, and I'm actually glad that I came out today because this film was very inspirational. Selena, I was here to support you. We've been talking about this project for a while, and looking at this movie, it opened my eyes, you know, because there's a lot that's going on in Jamaica, not just Jamaica, but just other countries that you cannot be yourself. And it's just really sad, this, you know, for two people that love one another, just walking down the street holding hands, and they're being persecuted. I mean, Bob Marley spoke of one love. He did a song called One Love. And you have to get up and stand up for your rights. And this country, Jamaica, is a beautiful country, and there's a lot of things that happen in this country. Whether you're gay, straight, or being persecuted, it's wrong, no matter who you are. And the reason why we specify this, because this has become a minority. And so many people have been killed because of who they are. Yes, we're not ignoring other people that are heterosexual that are killed too. Wrong is wrong. But looking at a same gender loving person and because of who they are, they're looked at as an alien. Harvey Milk has addressed this in San Francisco. And so many people, we have a lot of affirming churches are telling you you can be who you are. They're not saying being promiscuous and sleep around, but they're telling you God created you in his image. And God does not mean for a person to take somebody else's life because you don't agree with it. That's not your choice, and that's not your will to do that. And God help those who are killing people. They're going to stand before the Almighty God one day, and they're going to be persecuted for that. The Catholic Church is condemning it, and it's like the man said on the thing, pedophile is a pedophile, has nothing to do with a same-gender loving person. Nope. Just because you're a pedophile doesn't make you a homosexual. Nope. I have a friend here who lived in a Jamaican neighborhood and was being persecuted. Garbage was being thrown in front of his door because he was a same-gender loving person. He had a right to live there just like the next person. But because he was gay, they didn't like it, they wanted him out, and they threatened him. So they were wrong. And people that get mad at this film and get highly insulted, not to throw names or label, is because the truth is coming out, and they don't like that. And they want that hidden, and it cannot be hidden for so long. What's in the dark shall come to the light.
I appreciate all these statements, but could we have some questions?
That never happened.
Yeah.
Well, my name is, they call me Marcia, but my real name is Palace. I don't like that name, Marcia. But on the 22nd of December 2009, I went to Jamaica. I returned on April 3rd, 2013. Hi. And now, statistically they say that 6 out of 10 Jamaicans are corrupt. I wanted to sink in. Because you see, I remember I read in the newspaper that a goat thief was shot at. And I say, how much does that goat cost? And then I remember at the same time that they chopped up the goat thief, there was the light bulb affair where the politician stole millions of dollars in the light bulb. They couldn't get to that person, so they got to the little man. Then I recall a mother telling me that the police came in her house, put the pillow over her son's head and murdered him. Then I recall the fact that I always had to travel with a knife in my bag. Because you see, when a Jamaican man asks you for sex, he's privileged to have it. Because every 8 hours, if you don't give it up, you're going to get raped. But I kept my course. And the question I ask is this. I never worry about, say you're heterosexual. Then you have to come to tell me, you know that I see this nice of a woman I want to marry. You never have to ask me a question about that. You never walked up to me on the road and said, is it okay for me to marry this woman? So, you are so I will make an adult move too. I don't have to ask you a question about who I should see. Who do you think you are? Who made you my God? Where did you come from? Where did you bring your religion from? When did you form it? How did you create that? Huh? So much so that you can use it to use your ignorance and ways to come. Then I think about what the Prime Minister says. And this is one of the problems I was having while I was there. The people's sense of reason was so damn poor. You're going to tell me now, bestiality has been around for a damn long time. And it's no homosexual who need to bestiality, because I remember the man, and the day when they were having a cricket match, the donkey walked up to him and never moved. And I remember my friend telling me that when they were coming up in the night, they saw the move, and they were saying, no, Mr. Benji saw that. I don't know that's all. And I in with the donkey. Okay, the proof came out in the pudding, because when they had the match, surely enough, the donkey came right by him. So you see the point I'm making? Is that bestiality is something that what you coming up with? We are talking about if we allow. You sign anything for pay me? Who you for come and tell me say when you can't afford me can't do? God appointed you? Where you get your religion from?
Good luck trying to get a question.
You know when it starts? Before it starts, how will it happen? You know, once the earth is 8 billion years old.
Okay.
8 billion years old. Can you imagine having $8 billion? Right? Okay. You have been here for so long. And do you think that anything is new? But you're the only new thing here. So you might as well just get things together. You know what I say about even? I recall I had a problem. Because 3 times Marsha had come up to me. I saw just shut your. And I looked in the eyes. I never take my eyes off the eyes. Because I knew if I move, them shot me. You know shot today. Then I know man to them. Who live up here so? If we checked up, we just burn on that and you know how much bush there? I was in the parish of St. Catherine in a town called Princeton. And so I managed to escape 3 times being shot at. And I did manage to walk many times without having to have anybody, because I made up my mind. And they saw my face. They knew what they were going to hear. Alright, so you're going to murder me. I would be the first one to die, wouldn't I? Woo! As if I cared. Reported things I was going to show someone. But while I was there, and I went through...
excuse me.
Tysis, give someone else a chance.
Can somebody else talk, please, also?
No, give someone else.
I had to, I contacted J-Flag, and that's my disappointment, because they never returned my call. And I felt like I was in a crisis, and I needed an organization like that to be in my side.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, where are they?
Okay.
J-Flag, where are you?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You see what I mean? The audience is stacked, the movie is stacked, the panels is stacked.
Yeah, that's why we have you here, to have some balance. Okay.
I can get in touch.
Can we please have a question? You have a question? Question? Okay, great. Okay.
My name is Andre Monster, and I'm just glad to be here. First of all, the film only is scratching a small portion of what is going on. The problem is deep rooted in the moment you're born. I grew up in Jamaica, 22 years, and I got old. Thank God, alive. But the first word you learn is Batiman Fide. You learn that from a toddler. And so, if it is against the law, why do we have to wait till somebody is being beaten isn't some way that we could get people out there, out of the country, if this is against the law and it's a human rights issue? It is no law where we can get people who identify as homosexual to get out of the country to protect them. Only way I came here on a work visa. Thank God I used to, work, and I got here on a cruise ship, and I didn't go back. And if I went back, I would have lost my life. So I didn't go back. But not everybody, as you said, to get a visa, you can't get a visa. So what can we do to change that?
Maurice, you want to?
That'll be changing soon.
No, that's a question for the US, not for me. What is the situation with the immigration policy? And I can't speak to that, and I think you should.
Sure, that will be in there big time.
I will try my best. I mean, right now there isn't a great system to identify vulnerable populations in Jamaica and resettle them to the United States. We're doing that in refugee camps around the world, but we're not doing that in Jamaica, and it's one failure of the Department of State in this country is to recognize that this is a need that needs to be addressed. Just because there are lots of people doing okay in Jamaica and it's an English-speaking nation doesn't mean that it should be forgotten by folks who work on refugee policy. I can say that groups, faith groups, are really an integral part to helping people come to the U.S. either under false pretense or for legitimate reasons, but churches often can help people get a visitor visa to come for a church conference, and what do you know, you're in the US now, you can stay here for good. There are people who are Christians who believe in God who want to show love for their brothers and sisters who will help people who come here. It's just it's hard to create those networks. They need to be created. I really hope that this amazing film gets people angry enough so that they think about this and they think about what part you people in this audience and your friends can fulfill in trying to satisfy a huge need.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay. No, please, just a second.
I'll ask you anything.
Yeah. Okay, I'm the moderator. I think we have to give a chance.
I know,
to
white
people
folks
who
is
have
always
not
in
asked.
charge.
Yeah, okay, please.
Good night. My name is Richard Ramsey, and I'm from Jamaica.
Okay.
Recently came up from Jamaica. And I'm hearing that gay issue is not, gay is not an issue, but it's in an issue, but it's the authorities tend to keep it down low to the international community. I was I'm here today to be alive. And this thing, during this thing I was crying. Because in halfway through 2006, me and a friend were just talking, and someone accused of being gay, and I was chased down the road. And I mean, I see my life flash in front of my eyes. I went to the police station and reported. When I was speaking to the police, I didn't want to identify that it was a gay issue, but eventually it had to come out, and I did tell the police. And when he heard that it was a gay issue, his feature changed totally. And he put me back to identify the person in the area and left me there. And I'm fighting my way home. And I was, for years, I didn't go back to Africa. That I wanted to know. Who is in this audience want to proceed what is happening in Jamaica, and it's not nice. And I have friends back home, and I'm really concerned about it. Thank you.
I think we have time probably for one or two more questions because one of our participants has to leave at 8:30.
May I have my closing remarks, please?
No.
Hello, my name is Rita. And I want to know how long it takes you to make this film, and when you made the film, did you have any kind of static or anything like that? Any kind of problems and why you want to make the film about homosexuals?
Yes.
How long did it take you?
And I have one more comment. Don't be surprised that some straight people have homosexual tendency also too.
Hey.
Okay. Rita.
There was, okay.
How long? How long?
The film took about 5.5 years to make. And yes, you know, the gay community was a bit skeptical, not knowing what perspective, you know, where